Welcome to Mando and Friends, presented by Verizon. My name is Mando Fresco, and today we are here with stand-up comedian, star, co-creator, writer, Chris Estrada. Chris, how are you, man?
Chilling, man. How you doing, Mando?
I'm super excited to have you here, man.
Thanks,
And,
man. I'm excited to be here.
like I told you before the camera started, we're all fans of the show.
Oh, dude, that means a lot, for real.
And we quote the
Yeah.
show.
Yeah,
we have a lot of fun with it, man.
Thanks, man.
And I
I
think
really
we all
appreciate it.
started watching it individually, and then we started recommending it to each other. And we're like, oh, we're already watching it. So
That's dope, man. That means a lot.
I think it's really cool what you guys have done with this fool that's
Yeah.
now available on Hulu.
Yeah. Watch it on Hulu.
And but before we go into the show, man, I want to go back. I want to take
Yeah.
it back to where you first fell in love with what you do.
Yeah.
You know, and as a writer, as a comedian, as a stand-up comic, which is a
Yeah.
whole different type of craft.
Yep. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So
Very different.
of the things that you're doing now,
Yeah.
of the many things that you're doing now, what do you recall being the first thing that you jumped into in entertainment?
It was stand-up comedy.
Stand-up comedy.
I think I wanted to write before I was doing stand-up, but like sometimes writing seems a little like it seems like you don't know how to get into a place, or at least like the idea of writing for TV or even writing a film seems like you could do it, but it seems the system itself seems impenetrable, you know, as opposed to like stand-up, you can just kind of go to an open mic and get up and do it. And then it was really through stand-up comedy that I started kind of late. I mean, I'm 38 and I started stand-up at 29, which, you know, for most part, like people who start stand-up are really like usually in their as young as 19 to 21, you know.
Yeah.
So I started at 29, and that was because I just worked a bunch of jobs. I was never really doing anything I wanted to do, you know. I'm not college educated, so I didn't even have a good job in that sense, you know. So I was just, man, I think I had my first office job at 28, you know. Other than that, I was working in like, if I wasn't working like a blue collar job at a warehouse, or, you know, doing like construction, or like working with my friend as a jardinero or whatever.
Yeah.
I was just really just meandering and not doing anything. I always wanted to do stand up. I was just sort of like not doing it, you know.
Were people telling you, "Hey, man, you know, you're a funny guy. You should do stand-up"? Did you ever hear that, or?
No, because I wasn't funny in the way that like a class clown. I was funny in the slick way, like I would be a smart ass with my friends, you know. But I really enjoyed stand up, and I really enjoyed comedy, and I love film, and I liked good TV and stuff like that, and like literature. But it wasn't until I got fired from like maybe one of my last jobs that I was like, and I was still working when I started stand up, but I think I was like, got fired from a job, and I was like, I'm gonna try stand up. I'm gonna go to an open mic. And I went to 2 open mics that night, and then just kind of thought, why don't, and yeah, I had just come off a relationship too, so my nights were free.
Yeah.
And I just thought, like, might as well do something.
Yeah.
So I didn't think about, I've never approached anything in the sense of like, I never approached stand up in the way of like, I want to be famous, or I want to make money. I more approached it as like, well, I want to do this thing that is like creatively fulfilling. And then I just started doing it. And then you kind of, not quickly, but once you start showing up more and more, and as time passes, you sort of become part of a community, a stand-up community. So that kind of became my social circle, kind of became my life. So I would work in the day and then go like as soon as I was done with my job, whether it was like 4 or 5, I would go do open mics for the rest of the night, you know. Be out till like midnight, 1, 2 in the morning, start all over that next morning, go to work, go up and do stand up. So really it was through stand up. I mean, the only reason the show happened was because the guys that I co-created the show with, they used to be stand-ups, and they knew me from the stand-up scene.
Wow. Yeah. So I know that you grew up in South Central Inglewood area.
Yeah, Inglewood, yeah.
So you started getting to comedy or being a stand-up comedian. You said like almost close to when you turn 30.
Yeah.
So up until then, let's say like your early 20s,
Yeah.
did you ever think that you would go into comedy or anything like that?
No, I wanted to do creative work. I just wasn't doing it. I loved film and I loved like comedy and I liked good TV. Like, I loved writing, but I wasn't doing any of it. I was kind of saying I would one day,
Yeah.
and then time would pass and I didn't. And because it seems a little impenetrable. You don't know like where do I start?
Yeah.
Like, it's easy to overwhelm yourself.
For sure.
And then finally you just go, I think I was probably just sick and tired of saying I was going to do it and not do it. That I was like, I had to stop bullshitting myself.
What was that last job that fired you, that made you take that leap?
Jesus, I think I was working as a valet at the Beverly Hilton, maybe.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I was working I just had like, my personality was really a dude with three jobs. Like, I had three shitty jobs that would pay me what one good job would pay me,
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
now some people have one good job and it pays them really well. I had to have three in order to get paid okay.
Yeah.
So I think I was working nights at like the Beverly Hilton as a valet, and I think I got laid off. Yeah, I think that might have been it. That was like 9 years ago now.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's one of the biggest blessings.
Yeah, it was good. It freed
A
up my
fire, right?
nights, and then I ended up doing stand up at night because stand up you can only do it at night, and open mics are mostly at night. So yeah, and then I just kind of didn't have to do. I think I just came off of a relationship, and so my nights were free, so I just started doing stand up.
Yeah. When you start doing stand up, you're fresh out of a relationship. I'm thinking your family.
Yeah,
Usually, if I grew up in a traditional Mexican family,
yeah.
they don't really understand, I think the entertainment business.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
How was that for you?
Well, I think my sisters got it because they're from here, born here. But my mom probably, I think she was like, I don't know, you seem happy, so just keep doing what you're doing, And also like explaining what stand up is to my mom who's in her late 60s,
Yeah.
It's stand up doesn't exist that way in Mexico. I mean, it does now. There's a lot of stand up comedians in Mexico, but for her of her generation,
Yeah.
when she thought of comedy, she thought of like Cantinflas movies,
Yeah.
stuff like that, like Tintan and all that.
Yep.
So it wasn't necessarily like stand up comedy because stand up is very American. Like it's an American art form, like jazz or whatever.
Yeah.
And so I think when I told her I was doing stand up, I think I might have compared it to like Luis de Alba, from La Escuelita or
Yes.
whatever. Like he does a lot of, but his style is kind of like old school, like Henny Youngman. Like it's very take my wife please type of jokes,
Yeah.
So, but I just equated it to that,
Yeah.
because they're like, which there was no, at least maybe at the time I didn't know, there was no equivalent of like a Louis C.K. or like,
Yep.
there was in Mexico. Maybe I know there is now,
Yeah.
but at the time. So she was pretty supportive. She would just go, I mean, I had a job during the day and then at night, I wasn't living at home, but she just knew that I was doing stand up at night. So she would just ask me, ¿Cómo te van los chistes? I'd be like, good. And then she goes, well,
Bien, bien.
Yeah. She was like, that's good. Échale ganas.
Yeah.
She kind of was like, I guess he'll figure it out or whatever,
Yeah.
So yeah, I think as long as I had a job, like because you have to, like comedy doesn't pay until it pays,
Right.
So nobody pays you to go to open mics. Nobody. So it's like, so I had a job. So during the day, I mean, it wasn't a good job, but had a job, and she was just probably like, cool. I was working at a warehouse. So she was like, all right, well, you have a job. So whatever you do at night, cool. I hope it works out.
This next section of the program is sponsored by Verizon. Get the network more people rely on and mix and match 5G unlimited plans para toda la familia. So you only pay for what you need, plus more entertainment, so you'll have access to your favorite movies, games, and music. Chris, speaking of familia, what does your family think of your career today?
I mean, my mom trips out. She trips out, but she's also kind of old school in that sense. Like, so now that she sees that it's a career, she goes, "Oh, that's good. Ya te puedes casar." You know, like you could get married and have kids and
Yeah.
whatnot. And but yeah, she seems pretty like into it. You know, I mean, like I think for her, it's like cool. You have a career more so than like some abstract notion of like, oh, you accomplish your goals or dreams or whatever. It's more like good. You have a career, and it's good to have a career. You know.
You
Yeah.
know, we recently had someone. We had a college, a
Mm.
local college, come to our studio a couple weeks ago, and one of the students that came by was in her late 20s,
Yeah.
and she said, "I want to do. I think she wanted to do radio."
Yeah.
She's like, "But I think I waited too long."
Yeah.
Right? And you're a prime example that it's never too late. Like
Yeah.
you can start at any age, and as long as you put in the work, I mean, it's feasible.
Yeah. I would say I always tell people like just do it and have fun and let that drive you. You know, I'm always weary of telling people like do it and put your 10,000 hours in or all that like all that Malcolm Gladwell. Like I just go because it's so unforgiving. I mean, a lot of
Yeah,
it is a lot of it sure is hard work, but a lot of it is like timing and luck to an
yeah,
extent, you know,
yeah.
and networking and who you know. So I always tell people just do it. Like if somebody tells me they want to do stand up, I go try it. And if you like it, great, keep going. Just let that drive you. Like let the fact that you're doing something creative drive you and see where that takes you, you know? But if you don't like it, that's okay. Don't force yourself to like it. Like the fact that you just tried it is amazing, you know? Yeah.
So you start doing comedy, a stand-up comedian, and what came after that? Would you say? Because I know you obviously you're an actor as well.
Yeah.
You started taking acting classes. Do you start writing more for
Yeah.
shows? Like what comes next, or what were you thinking
It was
would
really
come
just
next?
stand up for me. It was like it was doing stand up and trying to get on like trying to get some sense of recognition in the industry.
Yeah,
Like getting recognized. I was showcasing for Comedy Central. I was showcasing for this festival called Just for Laughs in Montreal. They're
nice.
like new faces. And so it was a lot of that. And I was writing at the time. I was like writing scripts and pilots and stuff like that. And occasionally being invited to a room to do punch up. Like punch up is when you go and punch up the script, like pitch jokes, you know, for a script. But I wasn't really acting. I mean, I enjoyed acting, but it was really my acting opportunity came from being on the show.
Wow.
Like and before that, I'd only done two things. And the thing about comedy is that like when you work in comedy, a lot of your work ends up coming from other comedians who get things before you, or you know, and sometimes like before the show, I was in an episode of the show called Corporate, and that was on Comedy Central. But that only happened because the guys that I co-created the show with, this fool, they that was their show before this fool was Corporate on Comedy Central,
Got it.
and we were already working on developing the show together. So they said, "Hey, you should come, or would you be interested in being in an episode?" And I said, "Yeah, sure." And I enjoyed acting, but I wasn't like my thing was in like my goal was trying to become was to just keep becoming a stand-up and tour, and then also like hopefully write, get into writers' rooms and stuff like that.
What would you
Yeah.
say is the most, or was back then you're starting up, was the most challenging thing about getting into this industry?
You know, probably slightly my age because I was kind of like, but I didn't let it stop me. I just kept going because I was
Yeah.
having fun regardless.
Yeah.
You know, I was having fun, but also, you know, when you're kind of like grow up working class, and you know you're like when you grow up working class and you're probably you're like Latino and you're in a system that seems like kind of closed off to you maybe, or it seems like you know sometimes you'll meet kids who do comedy and they come from rich parents and they don't have to have a day job.
Yeah.
They you know
They don't need a plan B.
yeah, or they have connections and
Yeah.
stuff
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
that. So a lot of it was for me was like you know it was hard like holding down a job and like doing all that stuff like it was intimidating because you were just like, well, I hope this isn't. I'm having fun doing this, but I hope it leads somewhere and it's not fruitless or whatever. But I think it was just having fun and then applying like a harder work ethic to it. Just being like,
Yeah.
all right, this is fun, but treat it like a job or have like. I never had like I never had big goals. I always had incremental goals, which was like, cool, get comfortable at 3 minutes, get comfortable at 5 minutes, have a 10-minute set, know how to do 20 minutes of stand up, knew how to do 30 minutes. So it was just incrementally like that. Yeah. As opposed to like when I didn't start going, one day I want to have a TV show, or one day I want to have a comedy special. Cause that way of thinking overwhelms me, but if I think of like incremental goals,
Yeah.
like cruzas un nivel, you get to the next level.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's the longest special you've done now?
I haven't done a special. I did something for HBO a few years ago called with this other comedian where we did like 15 minutes each on a special, but I headline on the road and I do like 50 minutes.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I do headline. Like I headline like when I go to clubs outside, like when perform at clubs.
Yeah.
Depending if it's like I have a weekend there, I'll do like 50 minutes. Yeah,
Nice.
like 45 to 50, and I guess the goal now is to hopefully like within the next like 2 years, a year or two, record a special.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice, man. So,
Yeah.
you told me that the challenge then was how to do a little bit with starting a little later.
Mm-hmm.
What's the biggest challenge today for you, you think?
Dealing with like, I would say probably dealing with like stress of like being like your mind being at different places all at once. Like you're thinking about the show, then I'm doing stand up at night, and having a compartmentalized aspects of my life,
Yeah.
like when I go do stand up, or don't let the fact that you can't figure out how to write this story affect what you're doing tonight at
Wow.
stand up. So yeah, probably shit like that, I think. Or wondering like, if we don't get picked up for a second season, what should I be working on next?
Yeah.
Things like that. So I think a lot of it is probably like, once you have a career, is how to keep a career. You know what I mean? Like, there's so much of creative work and working in entertainment, like you said, you kind of have to self-motivate, like you have to self-motivate, and like you have to learn how to keep it,
Yeah.
and because if you don't, like, nobody's gonna give you anything, so you kind of have to keep like generating work for yourself.
Yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
so a lot of that is like, yeah, because a lot of people get a career, but can they keep it? Can they sustain it? I guess
Yeah.
is what it is. And generating work for yourself and being self-motivated, it's hard.
Do you find it being, Latino, that because I sometimes feel like there's a lot of pressure in being Latino, and not failing, because I don't want to let my parents down, right?
Yeah.
Like you said, like it's not like we come, my family, from a crazy amount of money where I could just
Yeah.
like chill. Do you find pressure in that end, or in that
Yeah,
way?
kind of. I mean, I feel like, you just have a work ethic, and you go like, if you come from working class people, like who are always working, or like, you don't want to feel like, you don't want, no te quieres sentir como un huevón, like
Right,
you want to keep
right,
working, and
Like a lazy person, yeah.
yeah, you want to keep working and then making things for yourself. So yeah, I mean, it's hard. Yeah, I guess yeah, that's a lot of it has to do with that.
When you go about life and you do different things in life,
Hmm.
it's sort of life teaches you, right?
Yeah.
Different things,
Yeah.
and different experiences you learn
Hmm.
from the different jobs that you had. Because it sounds like you did valet,
Oh, I had awful jobs.
you know,
Yeah,
you,
awful jobs.
you did a lot of
Yeah.
different types of jobs.
Hmm.
What would you say is the biggest lesson that these jobs that weren't in entertainment taught
Yeah.
you?
Well, I think a lot of it is just probably a work ethic, like it's just kind of sucking up and doing the work, and those jobs have validity, like
For sure.
just because they're not entertainment jobs doesn't mean they're less than,
For sure.
I just wasn't happy because it's not what I wanted to do, but like, yeah, they just taught me like kind of just the same thing as entertain. It's like nobody gives a fuck. Get up and do your job.
Yeah.
Like get up, get here on time. Like you're expected to do your work. You're expected to get paid. Like it really just taught me like a work ethic that I think I probably had already, but it's just like, yeah, get up and do your job, and or you're gonna get fired.
Right.
Yeah,
Show
and
up.
show
Show
up.
up on
Yeah,
time.
yeah, show up on time, and that's kind of helps you self motivate. But that
Yeah.
probably comes from being broke too, because you can't afford to not have the job.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
you can't afford not to have one of the three jobs or whatever. So yeah, I think a lot of it was just self motivating and having a work ethic. Mm.
What do you enjoy now the most?
Um,
Now that you're in this space, you a
yeah,
hit TV show, you're touring with
yeah.
your comedy. What's your favorite thing about everything that you have going on?
I would say it's a lot of things. It's probably, I think if I had to generalize it and be like, just use a general world, it's kind of creating stuff,
Yeah.
whether that's stand up comedy, you kind of have to create your own stand up comedy. You have to sit down and write, or at least like think about the stuff you want to talk about and how do you make that funny. And then it's the same thing for writing. Like, if you want to write a script, you have to like creating it.
Hmm.
I think the work is hard. Like, I don't I like half enjoy the work and half hate it, because it's hard, but that's okay because anything worth it is kind of hard,
For sure.
And then, so a lot of it is, yeah, just doing anything creative, whether it's stand up or writing a script or getting the opportunity to act is really nice. It's fun. Really, I think for me, it's a lot of stand up and writing that I really enjoy. Yeah.
Nice. I think there's a misconception
Hmm.
in entertainment with people looking from the outside in, thinking that people in entertainment or comedians or actors, you name it, just overall the spectrum of being in entertainment. Uh, there's this misconception of people thinking it's easy.
Yeah.
Oh man, it's easy. Once they're there, once you're on TV show,
Yeah.
like you made it, you're set.
Yeah.
Um, but the truth is, it's a lot of work, and like you said,
Yeah.
man, like
You got to sustain a
you
career.
got to sustain it.
Yeah, you have to sustain it. I mean, like, look at you. You're sustaining yourself by creating this space,
Yeah,
your own podcast. Like, you have to do it yourself and
yeah,
like go, this is what I need to do in order to keep expanding and sustaining a career. Cause like, I think at some point you have opportunities and you just can't blow them. It's the same for a job, like if they give you a promotion, if you somehow like you're working in construction and then you become a foreman,
mm-hmm.
like you have to sustain being a foreman. You have to show up every day and do the work and and take on those new responsibilities and stuff like that. So a lot of it is like, yeah, it's not easy. I mean, I think it probably looks easy, because it's not getting up every day depending on the job. It's the schedule's looser, but you're just flexing other muscles, whether
Mm-hmm.
that's, you're having to like stress over creative work or thinking analytically about like what are you gonna do next,
Yeah,
and that también te puede matar, it's like it's crazy, it's stressful,
yeah,
and a lot of that is having to self motivate, like I said,
yeah,
like self motivate to like just keep going and making your own opportunities. Because the thing is, it's like always I heard this comedian say this once, like the thing about entertainment is that like it really is like a dream. Like when people say they want to be doctors and lawyers, that their dream is to be a doctor or lawyer. That's not a dream. That's a goal, because goals are achievable.
Yeah.
You know, like goals, you know, the steps to them. Like if you want to be a doctor, you do well in school, you go to college, you get into med school, you figure out what practice you want to be in or what specifically in med school you want to do. And then if you put in the time, you become a doctor.
Yeah.
But the thing that's different about entertainment is that there is no clear path.
Yeah.
You know, it's like you could literally do all the right stuff and it may not happen.
Yeah.
You know, it's more of a gamble. Like it's more like a dream, because dreams don't make sense. You know, like dreams no tienen sentido.
Right.
Like if you told someone that, like, I'm going to be a comedian, or I'm going to be on the radio, and then I'm going to have my own podcast, and then I'm going to have they'd be like, so you know, like, what is he talking about? Like,
For sure.
you know, go get a job.
Yeah.
Like, go get a real job or whatever. And they're not wrong to think that, because a lot of that is, there's no clear way. I mean, like, you could go to school, go to radio school, go to all these things, work at college radio, then transition to, and it may not happen.
Right.
You know, it's like, it happens that way sometimes, you know?
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, you know, you said that you may hear people say, hey, get a real job.
Yeah.
I heard that for many, many years from my own parents.
Mm-hmm.
And I was already doing radio in LA.
Yeah.
You know,
on a big station.
The number two market in the nation for one of the biggest radio stations.
Yep.
And my dad would still be like, yeah, agarra otro trabajo.
Yeah.
Get another job. You know?
Yeah. Well, it's hard because it's like you have to sustain it, you know, because just like radio can be as fickle as entertainment. You know?
For sure.
As TV and film.
Yeah.
In that, like, I'm assuming if new management comes in, they can clear the whole.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
They could flip a station into a different genre.
Yeah. And then you find yourself that your next opportunity is in New Mexico.
Right.
In a smaller market. And so, you know, I think it's like, I get their concern. I mean, that's why you really have to self-motivate if you do entertainment or whatever.
You know, earlier you said how the stressor of having to maintain and te puede matar, right? It can kill you. The stress can
te cansa,
kill you. It tires you
it tires.
out.
Es matado.
You know, what would you say is what you do now to take care of your mental health and to, you know, avoid having anxiety or a crazy amount of stress? Like, I mean, obviously, I think just being in the business, that comes, right?
Yeah, of course.
But like, how do you do that to maintain a fairly healthy state of mind?
I don't know. I'm probably bad at that. I'm dead inside. I'm dead inside. I don't even know. I don't see a therapist. I don't do any of that. It's bad. I should. I mean, you know what I do? I go out for walks or I go running.
Nice.
But even doing stand-up is great, because stand-up is part of, like, it's what I started in and what I enjoy really doing. So, like, even going out at night to do stand-up, because there's such a, like, social aspect to stand-up that you see your friends at night. So that's really nice. I mean, it's cool to go out and do stand-up. But also, I think what's helpful for me too, though, is really honestly talking to my friends that have nothing to do with entertainment, and, you know, just asking them about their lives. It puts you in perspective, you know, because you know, entertainment is nice. It's not the most important thing in the world.
For sure.
If all this stopped tomorrow, we'd figure out something. Yeah. You know, if somehow all cameras in the world stop working tomorrow, we would be okay. I mean, we'd have to get another job, but that's okay. You know, it's like, entertainment is truly an escape. It's not like, I have to remind myself that it's not the most important thing in the world, you know? And if I talk to my friends who have kids, who have regular jobs, and they don't want to be in entertainment, like, they're happy in their lives, working their jobs, that's great. I love hearing that. Yeah. Like, you know, because I think a lot of it is kind of living in this age where everybody feels like they want to do something, because entertainment is more accessible than ever, in a sense where you can start your own podcast, you could start your own YouTube channel, you can do this, you can do that.
Yeah.
There's this need to want to be seen, and it's not necessarily a bad thing because it makes it accessible to everybody. You know, you don't have like crazy gatekeepers as much anymore. But I like talking to people who are just happy in their lives, not doing entertainment, and that's great. Like my buddy who, like my compadre who works in like, you know, he works for the he does for the city doing like water management.
Nice.
Yeah, he's more than happy doing his job, and he has 2 daughters, and like, you know, I think hearing that is really cool. Talking to my friends who don't do any of this, because it grounds you. It brings you back to reality, and that this is fun and it's a great job to do, but you know, it's not the most important thing in the world.
Do you feel like sometimes you live a sort of double life?
Yeah, I think so. I think so. Yeah, I think especially because I started comedy when I was 29, in that like you know, a lot of people who start comedy are like 19, 20, 21. So then throughout their whole 20s, their social life becomes their comedy life, becomes their personal life, their social life. As where when I started, I felt like I already had all I made a lot of friends in comedy that are like really good friends, but I also had a lot of friends from high school who I kept in my 20s in touch with, and who I'm still friends with to this day. But it does kind of, yeah, it makes you feel a little bit of a double life, especially like, you know, if you come from people who don't do this a whole lot, you know, like, you know, if you're working class and then Latino at the same time, like it's not everybody does this, you know, in your family. So if you can feel a little bit like double life sometimes. Yeah.
You talked about comedy, being on stage, being a stand-up comedian. Does that feel therapeutic to you sometimes?
I mean, I don't treat it like therapy, because I hate stand-ups who go up there and go, this
Talk
is
about
my
all their personal life.
I don't mind if they talk about their personal life, as long as it's funny, you know, as long as it's funny. I think when it's just like them, like
venting,
then I go, all right, well, can call your friends and vent, you know, like figure out what's funny about it, you know, like if you're gonna do it in stand up or whatever. But I guess I do, because I really love stand up and I love doing it. So it becomes this thing. It's a fun thing to do. It's stressful sometimes and it's work, and it's frustrating at the same time, because sometimes you bomb in front of people, or sometimes you're working on a new joke that's just not going well.
Yeah.
But it's therapeutic only in the sense that I really enjoy doing it, and it's a craft, and you craft, you know, jokes, and you craft your set, and you know, so yeah. But it doesn't become therapeutic in the way that I talk about my personal life, in a way that's just ranting, you know. Yeah.
Would you say it's therapeutic in the sense of just a release, you know, the way you go and you run and you hike and stuff like that?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, absolutely. Even bombing, like even sometimes doing really bad is therapeutic. Like, you know, sometimes you'll bomb in front of people, and that's good. Like, you know, you got to bomb sometimes. Like, you don't learn. My philosophy, and I've heard people say this before, is like, you don't learn from killing, you learn from bombing. You know, like I don't trust anybody who does well all the time.
Yeah.
Like, if you're doing well all the time, you're a hack. But if sometimes you bomb, like, you're probably doing something right. Like, you're trying to figure it out, you know?
Yeah.
You're challenging yourself, or you're coming up with challenging material. But if you're just up there killing all the time, it's just, maybe, I'm sure you're talented, but you got to bomb sometimes. You got to learn from it, you know?
Yeah. What's the biggest lesson that you've taken from bombing?
From bombing is sometimes just trying to refine what I'm talking about and how to make it funny, you know, because sometimes you go up with a thought that you go, I think this is funny to me, and this is weird and a unique thought. How do I make this funny for people who don't think like me? Or how can or this is a weird thought, how do I make it funny? And sometimes when you bomb with that new stuff that you're excited about, these new ideas, you learn that what you learn is you haven't gotten there yet, you know? Like, or sometimes you also learn that crowd sucks, you know? Sometimes sometimes there's just bad crowds. It's not like, sometimes crowds are fucking idiots, you know? Like, they're
Yeah.
idiots. Sometimes they're wrong. Because I know I've seen comics that I really enjoy do bad in front of a crowd, and I would go, oh, these crowd, they're just idiots.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
They're, you know, it's, but
And it could just be like a small group in a certain area.
yeah, just sometimes
right?
it doesn't, yeah, sometimes for whatever reason, you're not what they dig,
Yeah.
you know, and that's okay, you know? But yeah, I do think the best stuff comes from bombing. Like, you learn, you got to take chances or whatever, you know?
And that's just in life too, right?
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
failures, you gotta learn from them.
Yeah, you got to take your L's, you know? You got to take L's and then kind of learn from those L's as much as they suck, you know?
You know, for in that sense of bombing or learning from being on stage. You know, as I'm not a comedian, but you know, I'm a host. And,
Yeah, of course.
And I go on stage in front of thousands of people sometimes.
Yeah.
And I have to adjust too, you know, in the
Yeah.
sense of like, I'll go on one night and I'm like, okay, this set, maybe I think I got to slow down a little bit.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, or I go out another night and I'm like, oh no, I think I got to speed it up a bit. You
Yeah.
know? And
Yeah, hosting and being an MC and being a broadcaster, it's his own skill, right?
Right.
It's like a craft.
yeah.
Yeah,
I
the
think
crowd.
I think I gotta pause here. I think I
Yeah.
gotta be louder. I gotta hit this mark a
Yep.
little harder.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. That's a lot of stand up too. It's a lot of craft, you know? Like pause here, build up, you know. Yeah. It's a lot of that. Absolutely.
Are there any comedians that are coming up that you're a fan of?
Oh yeah. There's this guy that I did a special with, that HBO thing. His name is Ian Lara. Really sweet, funny guy. Really, really funny guy from New York. Dominican dude. He has a special coming out
Nice.
on HBO November 11th. I don't know the name of the special, but it's coming out November 11th.
Nice.
His name's Ian Lara. Really, really funny guy. And then there's other comics that I really like, comics that I started with. Like, there's this guy named Ramsey Badawi, that he's my friend. I go on the road with him. He's really funny. There's another comic named Paige Weldon that I started with. This guy named Mike Menendez, who I started with. He's really funny. Yeah, some of my favorite comedians are the people that I started with.
Nice.
Yeah, that's who I get really excited about watching.
Nice.
Yeah.
And how does it feel, man, to see that circle that you were a part of when you started?
Yeah.
And you start seeing wins yourself, but you also start seeing wins for
them.
that circle
Yeah.
of yours.
It feels good. It feels like we stuck it out and, you know, we kind of motivated each other, or we're inspired maybe by each other as well. Like, you know, so it feels really nice. It feels like you're part of a class, you know, like you think of like, who are the people you came up with, and you can look back at them and go, oh, these are my friends. And, you know, I think we were doing something right, you know? Yeah.
There's a comedian that we were talking about earlier, Barboza. What's his first name?
Ralph.
Ralph.
Yeah, it's really.
Barboza.
I met him before. He's a really nice.
He's a
guy.
funny dude, man.
Oh, he's really, really. That's another guy that I think is people should check out. Ralph Barboza. He's out of, if I remember, he's out of Dallas.
Yeah.
Yeah, really, really funny guy. I did 2 shows with him a few months ago here in LA. He's really, really funny. Out of Dallas. Really, really funny guy. People should check out Ralph Barboza. Barboza. He's really, really funny dude.
You know,
Yeah.
when you see other Latino comedians coming up,
Yeah.
is there a sense of embracing that?
Yeah.
You know, the upcoming talent.
Yeah.
And even like giving them pointers. Like,
Yeah.
do you do that yourself?
My goal is to destroy the competition. No, I'm just kidding. No. No, I'm kidding. No,
Forget them. Forget them all.
forget them all. I spread rumors about them. I go, how can I sabotage them? Even if they're not my same race, I try to sabotage them as well. Spread rumors about them. I give them misinformation. No, I get really excited when I see other like young Latinas doing stand-up comedy. I think it's really cool.
Yeah.
Like I think it's great. I get like Ralph is really great. Ian Lara's really great. Like there's a really great like Latino stand-up comedian, Melissa Villaseñor, who was on SNL. Like I get really excited. I think it's great because everybody has a different voice and a different style. And I think I get really excited, and if I don't know them, I like to meet them.
Yeah.
Like I sort of like I feel connected to anytime I meet someone who's a stand-up and they're a Latino, even if we don't do the same type of comedy
Yeah.
or we're in different scenes. I go, cool, man. We do the same thing. We have an understanding of each other. We probably have similar backgrounds, and there's a little bit more of an understanding there. Like one of my other favorite comedians is Jesus Trejo. He's a
Yes.
really funny dude, and out of Long Beach, an LA comic, and I love Jesus. Like I always tell for most people, I always think of like watch Jesus Trejo's. He has a Showtime special. Watch Ralph Barbosa. His clips online,
Yeah.
are phenomenal. Watch like Melissa Villaseñor or Ian Lara. Like, I get really excited. I think it's cool. I think it's I don't know. I just get excited because everybody brings a different, unique voice to stand up.
Yeah. How about when it comes to the OGs of the game?
They're cool too.
Who did you grow up watching?
In terms of just comics
Yeah,
in general
comics
or
in
Latino
general.
comics?
No, comics in general.
Oh, comics in general. Damn, some of the comics I loved growing up were people like Colin Quinn, Patrice O'Neill, Bill Burr, Maria Bamford. Like I really just enjoyed comics, like real comics. I really enjoyed Felipe Esparza. Like some of those were like really, even to like things like Richard Pryor and George Carlin, I really enjoy watching. But like, yeah, Greg Giraldo's, and he was a comic that passed away years ago. He was out in New York, Colombian dude, just really funny, like sharp, political, but like clubby and kind of dirty comic in a way. Like he was great. I love all stand-ups. Felipe Esparza, I remember I voted for him when he was on Last Comic Standing.
Yeah.
And this was years before I ever did stand-up. Like
Wow.
this was years. I just thought he was so funny. And yeah, so I really, those were the comics that I really liked. Jim Norton, like people like that. I really, really enjoy. I like Cat Williams, like, Jerry Seinfeld. I think I just like, I like comics throughout different styles and genres. Yeah.
Earlier we talked about Frankie.
Yeah.
And Frankie is obviously a co-star, and I'm sure you guys met beforehand in the comedic circle.
Yeah.
Frankie Quinones.
Yeah. I tried to sabotage him by starting rumors about him.
It didn't work, did it?
Did not work. Did not. One of my great failures in life was not ruining Frankie's career. No, he was great. I met him as a friend. Like we met years ago doing stand up here in LA, and he was really nice. He took a chance on me. He would take me on the road he would take me occasionally on the road with him and to open up for him, and he was really great. Yeah, Frankie's another great comedian that I really enjoy watching, and really unique guy. Like does character work and like sketch and like stand up and whatnot, and finds a way to mix sketch and stand up together in a good way. And so I met Frankie through that, and then it was really cool from working with him as a stand up comedian to him being on the show.
So the show This Fool that is streaming now on Hulu.
Yeah.
Congrats again on all the success of that show, and I'm sure it's opened a lot of doors and windows and eyes. I saw you guys on billboards across the nation.
Yeah, that's right. That was really fun. That was really cool.
We were in New York. We saw you guys in billboards in New York.
Yeah.
All over LA.
Yeah.
I mean, how is that? Like just to see that come about.
That was cool because I lived here. I grew up in LA, and I grew up taking the bus everywhere and like driving everywhere when I was really young. So to drive around the city, to ride around not just the city of LA, but the whole county, and like seeing different parts. Like I had a friend who sent me like a photo of like, hey, there's some billboards here in Bell, like, or there's some in South Central, there's some in the Valley, there's some at the Beverly Center, there's some in like Hawthorne, Inglewood.
Yeah, I saw one in Southgate. I saw one in Linwood.
Yeah, so that was really cool. Like growing up in like the whole greater LA area, like that was real dope for me. It was surreal, it was real cool to like drive by and be like, oh. there I go. Like it was really cool. I think a really exciting thing too was like also I get a little lost in it because I was working on the show
Yeah.
and I haven't stopped working on it for years. So it just felt like a continuation of work. But like a real exciting thing for me was to get to work with the artist who did the lettering for the show, the title art.
Yeah.
It was this guy named Chaz Boyorquez. He's an old graffiti artist from LA, who grew up in Highland Park, old Chicano guy. He's not kind of, he's known as the godfather of West Coast graffiti, and he kind of mixes this style of like Asian calligraphy
Yes.
with like Cholo English letters, like
Yes.
in old English letters, like placazos and stuff. And that's a style that he invented and is known for. So when we reached out to him to see if he would do the title art. And he's in his late 60s, I think maybe 70 at most. And I was a big fan of his. So he would do graffiti in LA in the 60s and 70s.
Wow.
So then to see him he's a very successful artist. He like showcases in museums and galleries all over the world, and it's very popular in Japan. But to see him his artwork on a billboard all across the city,
Yeah.
and he's an LA guy. To me, that was just as exciting as seeing me and Frankie on a billboard together. Was seeing him, I thought that was really, because it was like implementing art.
Yeah.
Yeah,
For sure. Especially as a creative, I'm sure.
yeah, it was really cool.
You
Yeah.
appreciate those things.
Yeah, I appreciate those things, and it felt like I was curating something.
Yeah.
And it was cool because I would find people message me going, "Who that title art is cool," or something, and it was cool to tell them, "Well, if you like it, check. This is the name of the artist. Look him up."
What's his name again?
Chaz Boyorquez.
Okay.
Yeah, really, really talented dude. Yeah, and it was really cool to get to work with him and him to do it.
I think that's really cool because I would think as a fan of the show that Hulu handled all like all visuals, logos. Like that's what I would think as a viewer.
Yeah,
That's cool that you.
Yeah, they were pretty. Hulu was really cool about letting me pick all that stuff, and it was never even brought up that I wouldn't. They were just like, when it came to title art, it was they were like, me and the showrunners. I showed the showrunners, who are Jake Weissman, Matt Ingebretson, and Pat Bishop. They're the guys that I co-created the show with. I showed them Chaz Boyorquez, his artwork. I had some of his books and whatnot, and they were like, "This is great. Let's reach out to him." And we reached out to him, and Hulu saw the design and said, "Yeah, this is great. Cool. Let's do it." And then the same too with the theme song.
Yes.
We got Chicano Batman, and then that just came from all four of us, me and the other creators being fans of their music. And then it didn't even occur to me because I just thought, who knows if they'd even do it? They're so popular. But we would listen to their music occasionally on breaks from writing. And then one of the guys was like, we should ask them to do it. And then, yeah, we did. And they were really cool. And again, the Hulu let us just reach out to them and then we gave them direction on like the kind of song we wanted.
Yeah.
And they were great, man. They were really cool. If people don't know who they are, they should check them out.
The visual, the aesthetic of the logo, and even the theme song have like an Asian influence.
That somebody told me that. I don't hear it, but somebody said that to me. I never thought about it, but I guess it does.
Yeah. And I remember before even knowing that you and I would be sitting here and talking, I thought, man, I have to ask Chris how that came about. But you said it wasn't on purpose, really.
No, nah.
But
I mean, reaching out to Chaz, who his style is a mix of Asian calligraphy and like placazos,
Yep.
It was more just being a fan of it. And then Chicano Batman, it was just more of like, I think we kind of said like, gives a song some swagger.
Yeah.
And that's what they came up with. And yeah, I never thought about it. People say it.
I think it's like It's
Like some strings, I would imagine.
Yeah, it's the strings that they use in the drums a little bit too.
Yeah.
It's like a hip hop
Yeah.
slash Chicano slash like Asian influence that I
Yeah.
got
I
from.
think it's a little psychedelic. Maybe
Yeah.
like we just told them because they have a psychedelic kind of sound.
Yeah.
Like a psychedelic soul sound, I guess. And yeah, that's what they came up with. Somebody pointed that out recently too, and I went, "Oh, that's cool. You see that? I mean, that's great. I don't have any issues with that." But
The beauty of art, right?
yeah. It's interpretive in that way. Yeah.
So the show now, for those that haven't watched the show yet,
Yeah.
how would you describe it?
I think it's the way we describe it, the way we used to pitch the show, which maybe is not the most friendly, like more layman way to pitch it to regular people is we used to say it was Friday, but directed by the Coen brothers, like Friday, the movie Friday.
Yep.
But directed by the Coen brothers who did like Fargo, Raising Arizona, Serious Man. But we wanted to make kind of a weird hood TV show that felt like Atlanta, that felt like some other shows but that was like not scared of being a comedy as well, you know? So I think it's a really cool, weird, funny half hour about sort of a depressed dude and his gangster cousin in South Central Los Angeles.
How similar
Mm-hmm.
are you to Julio, your character?
Similar enough. I mean, there's some things that I'm sure are similar. Like, a lot of that like is on the more surface level. Like, I have a cousin named Luis who was in prison. I grew up with my mom and my grandma and my two sisters. You know, I probably look at that like that's me when I wasn't doing comedy, maybe. You know, or sometimes I have a dead end job. Like I'm in a long-term on and off relationship. So I think there's similarities. Yeah, there's some similarities for sure.
So Julio was getting on my nerves
Yeah.
because I was rooting for him not to get back with. I shouldn't say much because people haven't watched the show.
Yeah.
But I was like, no, what are you doing?
Yeah.
I was yelling at the screen.
Yeah.
Chris, I was upset.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, TV shouldn't give people everything they want, you know? I think good TV reflects life. If not, you get really bad shows like Big Bang Theory and Friends and garbage TV that's just
I
like,
kind of like Friends, man.
yeah, well, hey, we all like garbage, you know? But like, you know, but that we're not making that type of show, you know?
Yeah.
Like our show's more like there's consequences, you know, and in TV shows, when you want to make them be reflective off of real life, there's consequences to action. Sometimes people don't get back together, or they do,
Oh, they do.
or they don't, you know. And if they do, it's not healthy. Or if they don't, it's maybe for the best. But I think because people are obsessed with like this notion of TV has taught you have a couple like Jim and Pam in the office, this will they, won't they kind of, and you have, or from Cheers with like the bartender and the woman that he was like, but I like the reverses. I like seeing the couple going, will they finally break up? Because that to me is more real life, you know? That's more reflective off of real life and funnier. Like, to me, the other thing feels more fabricated. And I like seeing things that feel a little more reflective and like, you know, that to me is real life. Sometimes people don't get back together or they do. And you know that it's a bad choice.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, I like being challenged by like TV and stuff. I don't like to like, I don't like to watch things and go, oh, they're back together. That's great. Now I feel happy. Like, that does nothing for me.
Yeah,
like I go, cool. I like if they're back together, I like it to be a statement of like this, if they're back together, but it's not a good thing.
Yeah.
But because that's reflective off of life, you know, or if they're not together, if they break up for good, I go, great, because that's real life, you know? And, you know, if you want TV shows that give you, where nothing changes ever, there's those shows. There's tons of shows to watch that are like that, and that's great. If people love those shows, that's great. But if that's not what I'm interested in making, you know, I like shows where there's real consequences, and the style of writing is more like film than traditional TV.
Right.
Yeah.
For the record, Joey and Monica are hilarious.
Yeah. I haven't seen it in years.
No.
I believe it though. But that show's great, and if that's what you want out of a show. And I think you could watch both shows, and I think you could watch both styles of TV.
For sure.
Yeah, I just like shows that have real consequences. I like things that feel like a novel, or things that feel reflective off of real life, as opposed to being like, great, they're back together again. What kind of wacky adventures are they going to get into? Or like,
I definitely think that this fool did a great job. You guys did a great job with
thanks.
it being relatable. You know, and I think that's why I was connected to Julio.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh no, dude, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Because it was so relatable. You feel like either someone like the character.
Yeah.
Or you are the character.
Yeah. Well, I just like the idea of this guy. He's kind of a self-sabotaging guy, and that's cool. It's cool to see something like that on TV.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So talk to me how Frankie and his character came about. I know we were just talking about it right before we started
just
shooting.
inspired by my cousins, like my older cousins who were in gangs and then went to prison. It was inspired by three of my older cousins. So a lot of that was just like, I wanted to show, I know these guys, and I think oftentimes when you see when you see gangsters or cholos on TV, they feel buffoonish or cartoony. And I'm like, but they're funny in a way that's not cartoony and buffoonish,
Yeah.
And like, how do you depict that in a way that these guys are like, they're the kind of guys that will fuck you up, but also make fun of you. And like, stuff like that. So that kind of came from that. It's just wanting to kind of show that, and that dynamic of like two cousins, finding each other again at different points in their lives. Yeah.
With Frankie, I think the character fits him so well.
Yeah.
And he's done another cholo character in his comedy and skits and things like that. Which is how a lot of people know him from Cholo Fit, Creeper, right? But this is a different type of character, I guess.
I guess I don't look at I look at because that Creeper character is based on being a character, a cholo character, and
fitness instructor.
Fitness instructor. It's kind of conceptual. And I think what it's not based. It's kind of based out of a figment of his imagination. I think this he's not depicting a character who is a cholo character. He's depicting a human being,
right? Who happens to be
that. Yeah,
right.
That's the difference.
Yeah,
is I think it's a very grounded character who just happens to be that. A guy who's kind of, out of prison, finding himself. How do I engage back into the world? So it's less about, it's just a guy who happens to be that. Yeah.
Do you happen to have a favorite episode or a favorite scene without going too far into it for those that haven't watched?
I love episode 4 is a birthday episode. I really like a lot because I think that episode we were trying to capture like what depression and like what being existential, like thinking about life a lot looks like, and when you're depressed and you hate your birthdays, and what does that look like?
Which a lot of people do.
A lot of people do.
that don't like the birthday.
Yeah. So I like that episode a lot. And then there's an episode 9. It's called The Rich, and then it's about this nonprofit, Hugs Not Thugs, hosting some billionaires who are possibly going to give them money.
Yeah.
And I like how dark and twisted that episode is, and what it says about class and like money and that one gave me there's some episodes in ATL with Donald Glover that are kind of like dark and twisted, but still funny. That gave me that type of vibe, and it was, and Fred Armisen he's really funny,
is amazing in that episode.
That episode was the one that I really like a lot because it's so dark and conceptual and like
a lot of turns.
It's kind of talking about like, what nonprofits have to go through to make money, talking about disconnected billionaires.
Yeah.
So I really like that episode a lot. I think that episode is really funny, really dark. And then the birthday episode, and then I really like all of them. But I think there's another episode too. There's episode 3. It's called Emotional Timothy. It's about this guy. My character leaves a date with a woman who's seems like a great woman,
right,
to go back to the comforts of like a destructive relationship, and then Luis and the Michael Imperioli character, Payne, go and get an engagement ring back from an old fiance, and I like that episode a lot too.
We had Noemi Gonzalez here on the show, and she's amazing, man.
Yeah, she's very talented. She was great in that episode. Really likable. Really like you were like, oh, I hope he keeps talking to her.
Yeah.
Keeps talking to her,
Yeah.
And then he ends up blocking her and like kind of goes back to the comforts of a.
But that's so realistic, man.
Yeah.
Like, how many times
that's what you don't see in Friends.
Yeah.
That's what you don't see in...
True.
Yeah.
True. I don't remember Ross doing anything like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love that when I saw her, I was so happy to see her.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh man, I really hope they kick it off and things may or may not end up as I thought it would. But it was nice to see her on there.
Yeah, she's really talented. She was great. Yeah, really brought a lot to that role.
I want to go into this next part of our Mando and Friends.
Yeah.
We call it Rapid Fire with Chris Estrada.
Let's do it.
You ready, Chris?
Yeah.
$1 million or 1 million followers?
$1 million, because then I wouldn't give about 1 million followers.
Salsa roja or salsa verde?
Verde. Anything less spicy, I'm bad with spice. But also I have acid reflux, so yeah, give me that verde.
I'm part of that club too.
Yeah.
Man. I gotta go light on the salsa.
Yeah.
And I can't eat hot Cheetos after 6 o'clock.
Don't do it, man. It's a nightmare.
So I feel your pain, man.
It's a nightmare.
Favorite piece of tech that you use?
I would say my phone.
Yeah.
Or my AirPods or whatever.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I like that a lot. Yeah.
Favorite Latino food dish?
Jeez. Whatever my mom makes.
What's the favorite plate that dish that she makes?
She makes pretty bomb chile rellenos.
Nice.
Probably that. Yeah.
Nice. My mom makes an amazing carne en su jugo.
Oh, that's dope.
With the bacon and the diezmillo and the green salsa. Woo.
Bomb.
Best song to play at a party? Or your favorite song to play?
My favorite song to play, period. I grew up on punk rock, so nobody wants to listen to my music at parties, I don't know. I grew up on punk rock, so that's the stuff I like, but...
What's your favorite band?
I like The Clash and stuff like that. But if I feel like if I had to pick if I'm at a party and it's friends that I grew up with, I don't know, banda's fun,
Nice.
Or playing some rancheras or whatever.
Favorite banda?
I like Banda Recodo. It's pretty catchy.
Nice.
Or, just whatever sounds good.
I like that. Shout out to Banda El Recodo.
Yeah, Banda Recodo.
There's a reference to Morrissey on the show too.
Yeah.
That's kind of nice.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't like it, but...
You like Morrissey?
No. The reference is Morrissey. Yeah.
Great. So you don't listen to Morrissey in real life? Either. Oh, okay. We were playing Morrissey earlier. So
yeah.
Let's not play
it's
that.
cool for whoever likes it. Whoever likes it. I have no problem. It's just not what I'm into.
I walked into a 7-Eleven once.
Yeah.
It was late night.
Yeah.
And some guy walked in and he's like, "Look, man, I just got my full forearm signed by Morrissey." And he says, "I'm on my way to the tattoo shop to get it tattooed right now."
That's how other losers can identify themselves that way. And it's like, oh, you're a loser too. Yeah.
This thing was from like here to here.
Yeah, it's a good way for other losers to really find themselves, Yeah, other people with bad taste in music.
Best singer of all time.
Ugh, best singer of all time. Jeez, that's hard. Damn, I don't. Oof. This is rapid fire, and I'm not being rapid about this. I don't know. Antonio Aguilar.
Nice.
Yeah.
Antonio Aguilar.
Yeah.
Lastly, a nickname of yours
Yeah.
that no one really knows about.
Oh, I had when they were calling, when I was a kid, like in high school, some of my friends, from Chris, out of nowhere came Krusty. So they would call me Krusty. Nobody calls me that anymore, but it was just like a thing during high school that my friends would go, "Hey, Krusty," or whatever, Yeah, that's a nickname.
Krusty.
Krusty, yeah.
Speaking of kids, the kids on the show are great, man.
Oh, yeah, they're funny.
They're hilarious.
Yeah, they're really cool.
So,
Yeah.
Krusty,
Yeah.
I want to thank you for coming to Mando and Friends,
yeah,
man.
thanks for having me, man. It was a lot of fun.
Such a pleasure. We're all hoping for a season 2.
You and me both.
And we know that regardless of everything, of all the good things that are coming your way, we know that you're going to continue to kill
Thanks,
it,
man. It really means a lot. You as well.
Amazing things. Thank you,
man.
Chris.
Thank you.
Chris Estrada, thank you so much. And thank you so much for watching Mando and Friends, presented by Verizon.